A popular topic we have not gotten to. I'll read this question here. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Justin in West Virginia. Maybe he knows Stephen P. New.
It's a small state.
I wanted to hear Jim's opinion on what Chris Jericho said on Instagram about beating MJF and the Inner Circle in the feud with beating MJF and the Inner Circle Pinnacle feud. And I have a quote here, and in a way, it's good that we haven't gotten to this until now because we're now several weeks away from this feud. Maybe the way you see it has changed.
No, I think I still saw it exactly the same way, but go ahead.
From Chris Jericho's Instagram, Jericho versus MJF was the longest storyline of my career, and one of the best. The angle started in September of 2020, and it ended last night at one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time, with the good guy making the bad guy tap out.
Oh my God.
The angle between the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle was full of twists and turns, comedy, tragedy, friendship, betrayal, blood, bubbly, and genuine animosity. But overall, I feel it was brilliant.
Oh, I'm sure he does. By the way, there probably was some genuine animosity in there, but go ahead.
I feel it was a brilliant, expertly told tale that was one of the best in the business from the last 20 years.
Oh, for God.
I hope all of you enjoyed watching this pro wrestling magnum opus as much as we did telling it. On to the next challenge. Hashtag AEW All Out.
Where do I fucking start? First of all, are you out of your fucking mind? This is wrong on so many levels. And I've just heard this. I've never heard this comment before. I just heard this for the first time, and I'm trying to process this. In any situation, how would this... He's a babyface now, so he can't say I'm being a heel by being a fucking egotistical prick about my handiwork, but he's a babyface, so he shouldn't be coming off like that, and that's the way he's coming off. Also, he's actually putting himself in the movie star role and the movie reviewer role. It's like if Siskel and Ebert starred in a major motion picture or a sitcom and then reviewed it and gave themselves both glowing reviews.
He did that before. Remember we read that post from like 2002 where he gave himself like 4 stars for a match?
Well, yes. But I figured it's after a show. He's alone in his hotel room. He's bored and he's stroking himself. Figuratively, possibly literally.
Some things never change.
Some things never change, apparently. Except he wasn't sitting in a hotel room alone after a show. This is weeks after the fact. But, and then what? Doesn't that drag MJF down with him? Because now he's not only told everybody, yeah, I'm a phony piece of shit that loves the smell of my own farts, and I planned this whole thing out because of my genius to entertain all of you plebeians out there, as Bobby Heenan would say. It drags MJF down too. Oh, and by the way, the guy that was doing it all with me, he's just as phony as a football bat, just like I am. And we did this all to fool you and get a rise out of you. So he's coming off like a heel when he's a babyface. He's definitely coming off like an obnoxious asshole because Jesus Christ on a cracker. Even if you liked the thing, it wasn't the greatest wrestling angle of the last 20 years. He's burying the guy he was in it with as being a fake and a phony, contradicting what airs and is talked about on their very own television program. Also that the fans will go, oh, Chris, your angle was so good and you're so smart and you're so cool. Why would you do something like that?
If you're insecure, you may want the reaction that you would hope it would get.
Well, I don't think it got that reaction. I think that everybody's better off that it's over with, especially MJF, so he doesn't get flushed down the toilet anymore. Jericho just said, hey, This is the greatest angle of wrestling of the last 20 years that involved me flushing a heel's fucking head down the toilet. Now that I would have bought that it was the best angle of the last 20 years in wrestling that involved the overweight, overage babyface flushing the heel down a toilet. Because it was also the only one of those. That's insufferable.
He's delusional. I mean, that's the problem is Jericho has awful ideas. He's convinced they're all great. Nothing will change his mind. And Tony Khan is a massive Jericho fan. So he gives him more slack than he would almost anyone. And therein lies the problem.
Can you imagine Steve Austin saying the same thing after a pay-per-view? Can you imagine even Mick Foley blowing himself to that extent, even though Mick likes to give out compliments and talk, positively and good about everything. Oh, positive, good. But can you imagine any major star in wrestling, except for some MJF? That sounds like a thing that he would probably say as a prick heel to make people think that he was more obnoxious and self-centered than he is already. But can you think of any major wrestling star in the last 20 years saying something like that in public about the shit that they were themselves in? Even if they did want to expose the business.
I'm sure there has to be someone that I'm not thinking of, but Jericho specifically does it a little more than most, because I can think of instances where he's done something and he's acting one way, and then he's on his podcast talking to the person he's doing it with. It's like, why don't you save that interview for, a year down the road, 2 years down the road? I know you're desperate for some numbers, but come on.
Nah, come on, Brian. Don't say something like that. Having those guys on the show is not going to give him any numbers.
Well, I just think he's fucking nuts. I think he's delusional. He does the worst shit and he thinks it's great. But there's also no one there to stop him.
Or is he trying to talk everybody else into it? Does he know that it did nothing for MJF except delay him in his path to get over, and it was all about Jeribloat, but now he's trying to say that so that other people out there will go, oh, well, shit, apparently everybody liked it, so I must have been the only one. You think that's it?
Do you think Jericho, based on everything you've seen, and you know the guy very well, or, you did in the past?
No, I did in the past.
You did in the past.
Before he, lost all of his marbles, but go ahead.
But also based on what you've seen since then, do you think he really believes, do you think he knows that this did no good for MJF?
That's a hard question, because if you have any experience in the wrestling business, you would almost have to know that. And Jericho's got a lot of experience in the wrestling business. However, there is that blind spot that many people have when it comes to their own shit. So, as Jackie Fargo used to say, it might be a pick 'em. I don't know. Could go either way.
All right, and that's the Chris Jericho portion of the show.